There's a lot of bullshit. There's a lot of AI nonsense that's going on out there. It's very similar, I think, today in what happened in the NFT market, right? There was like this crazy spike of just random companies coming out and doing AI. AI is definitely here to stay. I think that every company will incorporate it in some way. And again, we are not an AI company. I'm a ClimateTech company helping reduce emissions for corporates. I'm using AI to help optimize those. I like to say it's a first movers market. There are quite a few players, mostly in Europe, less in the US, but it is something new and innovative. We defined a term we call a climate benefit for employees, right?
Welcome back to Clean Techies, the #1 podcast for climate tech entrepreneurs. I'm Somil.
And I'm Silas. Each week, we publish the secrets to success from investors, founders, operators, and experts in climate tech around the world. Building a startup is hard. Building a climate tech startup is even harder. But we make it a little bit easier.
We put a lot of effort into these shows, so we hope you enjoy. Don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and let us know who you think we should have on next.
With that, let's get into today's episode.
Amazon, Google, Microsoft, Apple, the one thing these major tech companies have in common is that they are not meeting their sustainability goals. But Ito's here to change that. Ito is a rockstar individual, from tackling the green employer incentive problem to building climate tech communities across the US. Ito Perry joins us today to share his journey about how he went from working in sustainability at Apple to founding Elements World, who was making it possible for employers to hit their sustainability targets through their employees. He talks to us about the unique challenges and opportunities in addressing these Scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions by leveraging the often overlooked potential of employee-related activities like travel, commuting, work from home, things like that. He talks about their shifted business model, things he's learned from fundraising, how important it is to have traction before going to investors, and even the role of AI in their software and optimizing their offerings. If you enjoy this episode, please remember to leave a comment on the Substack with your favorite part and leave a review, 5 stars, hopefully, on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen. Now, let's get into the episode. But before we do, a huge shout out to Goodwin, our sponsors for this episode. If you are a climate tech entrepreneur with legal needs, you should talk to Goodwin. Check out their information in the description below. Now, let's get into it.
What's up, Ito? How are you?
Good. How's it going?
Good, man. We're super excited to have you on. I feel like I gave you the chase a little bit in recording this, so I think the anticipation was well worth it.
For sure. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, great. I'm super happy to have you on. I know who you are very well, but the audience doesn't. So please introduce yourself.
So I'm Ido. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Elements. Born and raised in California, lived in Israel for the last 14 years, and then just recently moved to San Francisco. So I'm based currently in San Francisco. Been in climate tech for the past 12 years, from NGOs to political campaigns to working at Apple on sustainability, to starting Elements in different communities. And that's pretty much it.
Yeah, you're a huge community builder. Can't state that enough. And I'm going to ask you a couple questions about that before we get into it. But let's start off. We're going to get into what Elements World does. But I think the coolest thing that you guys do is you try to tackle the employer problem. So just generally speaking, like what is the employer problem?
So I think that one of the when companies today look at carbon emissions in general and trying to, with all these new regulations that are coming out, the SB 253 in California and the CSRD in Europe and SEC that's going back and forth, there's a lot of regulation that companies need to address on the one hand. And the second hand is they've put out these net zero goals. And measuring all these emissions is very, very hard. And we look at, Scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions is a very, very challenging kind of, both opportunity, but also challenge that companies now have to face. We specifically focus on the employee side, which we see is an area that's untapped. And that if we can utilize that in the right way, we can both create value for both companies, employers, and employees, and help them reach their net zero goals much quicker and much better. So that's what we focus on.
How did you, it's very clear that employers have a lot of agency in determining, the carbon footprint of their employees. And the way you go about it is like, you wouldn't think about that right away, but there's actually some inherent decisions that employers encourage that affect that. And that's exactly what you tackle, right?
Yep, that's exactly it. We try to really find and create what we like to say optimized resources, right? So companies have different resources that they're putting out and spending on. And especially in regards to employees, everything that has to do with business travel, commuting, work from home, those are expenses, and those are things that we can try to optimize and both help reduce for companies, but also help reduce operational expenses. So there's a win-win on that side.
So let's start basic. If I'm a big company, let's call Orange, right? I'm a big company called Orange, and I want to decarbonize and meet my decarbonization goals. How does Elements World help me do that? How do you engage with that kind of a Orange tech company?
So it's a great question. So usually we work with chief sustainability officers, sustainability teams, and also CFOs or COOs to try to, and we integrate basically into their existing tech stack. So it could be, from HR, business travel, expenses, commuting like Uber, Lyft, all those different systems. We gather that information, so we have accurate data and granular data on those different on those different calculations. And then what the second part of our solution is also the reduction aspect. So we help optimize and help find the right solutions that help reduce business travel, commuting, work from home, all those different, and offering employees, community solar. Some of our providers are Arcadia, so we can offer community solar to employees, or solar energy, heat pumps, smart meters. So there's a wide range of different solutions that we can offer, and that's what we do with different companies. So with Orange, for example.
You know that feeling when you meet someone who shares your vision for the future? It just clicks, like two peas in a pod. Well, that's exactly how we felt when we met Goodwin, who we are proud to have as our sponsor. Being the first major law firm to set up a climate-specific startup and venture practice makes them exactly the kind of partner we are excited to work with. They realize that there are a plethora of challenges to building ClimateTech startups, and that's why they have built an entire suite of resources for founders, investors, and entrepreneurs in the space. They even offer several tailored pricing methods. And guess what? It doesn't matter where you are listening to this. Goodwin is a global law firm that you can trust to be your partner through it all. From incorporation to exit, they've got you covered. Go to goodwinlaw.com and tell them Clean Techie sent you to get exclusive access to startup resources. All right, back to the show.
When we first sat, and when we first, not too unsimilar to your employer, Apple, right? When we first sat down to talk about Elements World, you walked me through how you guys found the employer model, right? It's not necessarily a straightforward model. So can you tell us about the experimentation that led you to targeting employers?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we did start out B2C. We wanted to make renewable energy accessible for everyone. We wanted to find different solutions out there and really help connect and educate people about that and show them the financial value, right? So if I'm doing solar, I'm doing heat pumps or whatever, I can also save money on that. And that was the initial kind of a phase that we started. And then we realized that, B2C, first of all, it's really hard. And to educate the market is a challenge that we didn't see that the market is going in that direction at this moment. It will take some more time. And so we've kind of shifted into understanding, right, that if we want to make a bigger impact and reach more clients, we should go through employers, which, Apple, 164,000 employees, if I remember correctly. And that's 164,000 homes that we could potentially reach. That's on one hand. And the second part of it is companies have regulation. They have, sustainability teams. They are much more educated about these issues. So it made more sense to go through, the B2B route than the B2C. So that's kind of what we decided to do.
And in terms of messaging, right, you as a company are originally thinking about the consumer, about the end user, and then you're switching to the employer. What were the major differences in the language and the approach that you felt?
I think it had a lot to do about a lot with regards to finance, to showing the returns, right? Companies introducing new software or anything they want. There are three reasons why companies buy into software, right? It's either you're making the money, you're saving the money, or they have to because of regulation. So I think that the B2B side, as I mentioned, the regulation is a big piece of that. First of all, the second part is how do we save the money? And those are the two areas that we've kind of changed our vocabulary according to their needs, I would say.
You've mentioned Orange's big competitor Apple a couple times now, and I think it's an especially potent example here because you used to work for Apple.
Correct.
And so before we dive into that, I kind of want to get a little bit at your journey right? You were working within sustainability at Apple, and you decided to leave and start your own company. What was the decision to do that in the first place? Because especially in this day and age, you're leaving what's presumably a relatively secure and cushy job, right?
That's true, and it was not easy. I'll be honest, but I felt at some point that as much as I enjoyed the work there, and Apple is one of the largest companies in the world, and I love their products. I have all their products. I thought to myself, like, is that what I really want to do? In the end, yes, I'm working in sustainability, but the fact is, like, this is what they're creating in the world, right? Like consumer electronics. Um, and I felt that something was off. I felt that I wasn't focusing on what I should focus on, and I thought that I could make a much bigger impact from outside Apple. And by the way, I continued on as a consultant for them. So I left on good terms, and I'm still in contact with them till this day. We've also worked with them with Elements, and so that was the right decision to make, and created Elements. So yeah.
What were the biggest takeaways, from that experience? So just walk me through what it was like working in Apple in sustainability, what your experience was and what you kind of took away from that as lessons.
Yeah. So I was in Israel. I was in the R&D there. I was the first position to do sustainable and climate there. So a lot of it was, trying to do different projects according to Apple's global pledges. There were projects around waste management, water, energy management, employee engagement and sustainability, all the way to getting the buildings to LEED and LEED Platinum, LEED Gold. And I think some of my key takeaways from the work at Apple in general is how Apple works as a company is incredible. For those that have managed to experience that, it's nothing like any other company that you can work for, both on the corporate side, but also the innovation and the mindset and kind of the reaching the certain milestones that you put out. So on that front, I think I worked with incredible people, and also how they look at sustainability, how they look at climate, how much they've invested up until today in sustainability. I think is amazing, and more companies should do the same. Google, Microsoft are other good examples, but they're just three companies out of thousands and thousands of companies. So I think those are the kind of the main things that I took from there.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. And now, so you're a founder who's recently started this company, and to my understanding, let me know, you're would you consider yourself a first-time founder?
For sure. Yep. First-time founder.
Yeah. And so what was that experience, right? Like, because especially when I look at the things that you're doing with your business, it's not, I would say, like, it's, paint for me the competitive space. Would you say you're doing something novel? Are there a lot of people trying to do what you do? How do you think about that?
Yeah. So what we're doing specifically is very early. I like to say it's a first movers market. There are quite a few players, mostly in Europe, less in the US. But it is something new and innovative. We defined a term we call a climate benefit for employees, right? So if the companies are giving these different benefits to employees, just like 401k, pension funds, health benefits, all this, we're trying to create this new type of benefit, which we call the climate benefit. So that's a new term that it requires a lot of also market education, right? And so we haven't seen too many folks doing that, and we want to become a new standard in every company worldwide. That's the goal in the end.
Yeah, there we go. And I think that's there's a lot of white space for that, right? You've seen certain companies like Carbon Collective. We're good friends with one of the founders, Breen. He really focuses on bringing sustainability to 401ks. And it's, if you're going through the average day as an employee, you're not thinking about that. Nor, honestly, I think one of the biggest differences is it doesn't feel like your responsibility, right, to be figuring that out. And so by engaging with the employer to do that, I think you remove a huge hassle in the overall, decision making and behavior.
Yeah, for sure. And Breen is a great example of a company that we partner with, right? So we're trying to offer their 401k green plans to employees that are our clients. So there's a lot of synchronicity in that space. So
yeah, definitely. Also, wait, I don't know if you want to stop for a second. I feel like the connection got really poor. What do you think?
I think so too. Yeah, I keep saying trying to reconnect. Make sure you have a stable internet connection. You want me to try again? Let me try to connect you to a different Wi-Fi.
I think it's fine. Yeah. Go ahead.
Let me just give me 1 second. Can you hear me now? Hello.
I can hear you now. Yeah.
Yeah, you hear me?
Yep.
Okay.
Can you hear
Can you
me?
see me okay? Yep, I hear you perfect, and I can see you
Yeah.
clear now.
Okay, perfect. I think the connection's good on my end. So if it works for you, I think we're in good
Yeah,
shape.
yeah, we're good then.
Okay. Okay, so I think this might be better. The recording up until now will have everything, and we'll cut
Hmm.
out. By the way, if you ever want to redo an answer or anything, you can just
Hmm.
say like, "Hey, can I redo that?" Because we do
Yeah,
our own editing.
yeah,
Um,
no, it's
so
no worries.
yeah, okay, perfect. All right, so let's kick it off again. We'll we'll take it from. I feel like we kind of like we're good to move on. So are you
Yeah.
good to talk about? Uh, have you last we spoke? You were like in the midst of fundraising or like thinking
Hmm.
about it. Is that something you can talk about now?
Yeah, happy to.
Okay. All right. So I'll transition to that. So counting down in three, two. Amazing. And on the topic of being a first time founder, I think one of the hardest things that you face is fundraising, right? And
Hmm.
people's conviction in you. So both, like you said, you feel like you're early to the market, you're doing something really unique. How was it like fundraising for Elements?
It was not easy, I'll be honest. It's one of the hardest things I think as a first-time founder to fundraise, especially in a market that is not very friendly. So when we went out to market to fundraise, it was like, a year and a half ago when the market was down. Nobody, as a first-time founder in this market, I think it was one of the hardest challenges. And we overcame that. And one of the ways that we overcame that is a lot due to deciding to bootstrap the company. I personally invested in the company to make, to be able to continue on. We had some family and friends a little bit that helped out as well. And we continued on as long as we could to our next milestones, right? So to getting that early traction, those design partners, which is what our investors wanted to see. And after we got those initial design partners, we went to a VC, which is one of the leading pre-seed VCs in Israel called Fusion VC, and they said yes, we're in, and they transferred the money. And with that, we went to other investors and other folks, and we kind of managed to get that pre-seed round closed. And today we have around 6 investors, 2 VCs, 4 angel investors, some incredible people that have been with us for the past few months, and it's just great to have someone that watches your back, I'd like to say. Um, and we're now kind of soon gearing up for our next larger round. So that's kind of the path that we did.
ClimateTech founders are taking on a huge challenge. Not only do they need to know how to build a startup, but they also need to deal with hardware, have a strong handle on climate policy, know how to fundraise from diverse investor types. It's a lot.
That's why we made Clean Techies, the #1 podcast for climate tech entrepreneurs. In addition to our jobs, we devote 20 hours a week to producing this podcast for you. This way, you can learn from the people who have walked the path before you, learn from their mistakes, and gain insights on navigating this complex journey. If this mission resonates with you, we are asking for your help. It takes a lot of effort and it's not free.
If you are already a subscriber and want to help, start supporting us today by going to Substack and clicking Upgrade to Paid. Thanks for helping all the climate tech entrepreneurs like you.
That's fantastic. That's incredible to hear.
Yeah.
What do you think were the main things that stood out to investors when you first bootstrapped and then came to them with some progress? How did they look at you differently as a company? And what do you think you would do differently, or perhaps that's informing the way you're thinking about raising your future rounds?
Yeah. So I think that one of the things that they most looked at, and that was different from kind of when we bootstrapped, was the traction. So when we were bootstrapping, we didn't have a lot of traction. We had a couple of startups we worked with, we had a couple of companies, but it wasn't major. And once we got those big logos, right? So like a company
Yeah.
we like Lemonade, for example, Estee Lauder, Apple, um, that definitely showed the investors like, hey, these guys are serious. The team is fully committed. There's some early traction from large companies that want to buy in and are already working with them. So it just made sense. And I think that is kind of the change that happened from the bootstrap to getting those first VC money. And my advice to looking back, I spent a lot of time meeting investors early on, and I think that going to investors, we should have gone to them with more traction. Would have saved us a lot of time, and we would have closed the round much faster than we did. And I think that is something that I recommend any founder going on early on, is just focus on clients, get those early clients, get that revenue in, you know. and wait to meet investors until you have like substantial traction. And so that's kind of my key takeaways looking back. Another thing maybe would be around the product. So we met with a lot of clients, and we got we did discovery calls trying to get to that early feedback. But we went on and built the product and our MVP a lot faster than we should have. I think there is, you should focus 80% on the problem and 20% on the solution. And so that's another kind of key takeaway, I think, from looking back.
Very cool. I think
Yeah.
that's super relevant pieces of information. I wonder also, working in the type of model that you work with, it's relatively low capex. It's really sort of a business model innovation, and how do you become a connective player in the ecosystem? So I think there's an especially premium on being able to execute on that, right? You don't have maybe hardware founders are taking on an enormous challenge, but they also get sort of, I would say, like a pass in saying, okay, I have this very difficult problem that I need money to execute on. In your situation, they're looking at you and thinking, okay, like you really got to execute before we believe in you. Right?
Yeah,
It's relatively
exactly.
low capex.
Exactly. And I will add though that one of the things that we got a lot of questions from investors was what's your tech moat, right? What's your kind of advantage over competitors? And it took us a while to get there, but I think today we are much stronger than we were when we started. We have tech moats, we have our advantage over competitors. We built out also and are still building different AI models to help us kind of optimize that and really get the best solution that we can. So yeah.
You made my life easy. You mentioned AI. AI washing is actually a term that's hit, the news by storm recently. And if you look at your LinkedIn, you start off by saying AI enabled. So you're obviously a founder using software. The sentiment is that you have to say you use AI or no one's going to look at you.
Yeah.
Is that true? Is that how you feel, or what are you seeing right now?
So I think there is a lot of bullshit. There's a lot of bullshit. There's a lot of AI nonsense that's going on out there. Same thing, like it's a trend, like, right? You know what? It can be it's very similar, I think, today in what happened in the NFT market, right? There was like this crazy spike of just random companies coming out and doing AI. But I also think that there is, if you look at an NFT for just example, it's also here to stay, right? AI is definitely here to stay. I think that every company will incorporate it in some way. And again, we are not an AI company. I'm not AI focused. I'm a ClimateTech company helping reduce emissions for corporates. I'm using AI to help optimize those. And I think it's going to become a tool that you can use as part of your software, but not more than that. Or obviously in regards to what we're doing specifically. But I'm not, an open AI company. I'm not another, so yeah, that's what I think is going to happen in that way.
I love that. I mean, looking from the AI perspective, I think that's exactly correct. For me, when I look at investments across ClimateTech, you get a sense of which companies are saying they use AI so that you'll pay more attention to them. And frankly, sometimes it's unfortunate. These founders likely don't want to have to say they use AI as much as they do, but the way investors are looking at solutions, there's no way around it. The one thing I will say that really strikes to me is, founders who can reasonably say that they're using AI and focus it to a specific flow within their operation. So I want to pose that question to you. Obviously, you said it perfectly. You are not an AI company. You're a climate company using AI. How are you using AI, and how do you manage that messaging to your investors or potential investor conversations?
Yeah, it's a great question. And so basically, we looked at all the different models that we can try to create, and the reason that we tried to look at that was only to try to optimize the offerings that we can give to clients. And the three models that we're trying to basically to build are one is the prediction. So I'm trying to predict, right? There's different departments in companies: R&D, marketing, sales, and each one of them are flying differently, they're commuting differently, and all that. So if I can also try to help them predict, I can help them create carbon budgets internally and forecast that. That's one of the models that we're trying to basically build. The second one is around customized reduction opportunities. So for example, if I know the ways that employees are commuting to work, I can try to offer shuttles in certain times because I know that they're taking the bus that goes from San Francisco to the Bay Area for the companies that are here in the Bay. Or I can, if I know what flight patterns employees take to fly to conferences or all that, we can try to help optimize that internally into the company. So that's the second one. And the third one is really on the employee level. So if we gather a lot of different data points from, as I mentioned, commuting, business travel, work from home, so your energy, your car, all that kind of information. If I can understand how employees are operating and how they do their day-to-day, then I can also offer you a much more accurate solution, right? So I know some of you live in New York City, you commute by the subway in these certain times. So the offerings can be very, very, in what we call contextual employee engagement. So that's the third one that we're building. So those are the three kind of areas that we're focusing on. And, it's we're using it again to benefit the company and help them optimize their resources. That's the end goal. Sorry, I can't hear you. You're on mute, I think.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love it. I think you're doing the exact thing that founders need to be doing, which is understanding the way in which their recommendation systems are relevant to their technology and how it benefits employers, rather than saying, this is a catch-all. The other thing I want to ask you is, as you're deploying this AI meaningfully, I wonder if you can give us a bit of a lens into how you have to interact with data and everything like that at a corporate level. Like, what are you facing a lot of resistance? Is it relatively free flowing? What are you seeing in terms of the flexibility of these corporates to work with you on predictions and data management and things like that?
Yeah, and I think it really it depends on the size and the type of company. There are companies like right. I think it was PwC that joined and now is a partner for OpenAI and are now reselling their platform. And there's a lot of different companies that are using AI, I think, and different models. It really comes down to the policy that the company has. And again, the predictions is a feature. It's not required for our platform to operate. So if companies want to opt out, they can opt out of that. It's just more offerings for them to help them predict and help them kind of future. And again, there are companies today that have policies that no AI in any way, and I think that will change eventually.
So generally speaking, would you say that optionality is an asset? Like, has that been, based on your experience, something that they've been excited about?
For sure, yeah, because it helps them, again, as I mentioned, it predict the future, predict how, and then they can create, decide on budgets for next year, and think of, are they going to be on target for their net zero goals, or are they not going to be on target? So it definitely helps them kind of reach their KPIs and milestones that they need to reach. So yes, the answer.
Okay, I see. That makes a lot of sense. I want to pivot a little bit to how you built your team. So obviously, as a first-time founder, there's some own growing, pains and struggles that you have to understand with, how do I build an entire company, right? The next Orange from scratch.
Yep.
But on top of that, I think there's also an uphill battle that you might have had to face, which is, how do I convince people that I'm the founder, right?
Yeah.
And what's my unique advantage? So what was that like, especially in this day and age where there's so much turbulence around economic stability, climate tech, people are probably rushing to security. What was that experience like?
So I think because we are in climate tech, a lot of very, very good talent want to leave, what's called climate quitters, right? They're leaving large companies all across the world to try to work in climate. So I think that we do have some advantage in that space. If I was an AI company now trying to hire AI engineers, probably it will be very hard for me, right? Or if I'm a fintech company or whatever, there's not a lot of differentiation. But because we are a climate tech company, just like any climate tech company, I think that definitely gives us a strong hand in regards to good talent coming from large companies or other startups. So yeah, I think that's.
And when you're approached by or reaching out to talent, what are the things you're looking for in the people you want to build your team around?
Yeah, we have a saying in Hebrew. It's basically the meaning is like a knife between the mouth, right? It's like we want people that are willing to do anything to succeed. And especially when you're an early stage startup, you have to do everything, right? You're a kind of joker, right? I'm doing sales, marketing, design, hiring. I'm an HR. I'm a finance. I'm doing everything. So the early founders and early kind of founding team, I definitely want them to be able to be kind of multidisciplinary, but also have a direct focus. And we know, okay, so we have a sales manager in partnerships. She's doing this. And she obviously helps us with other areas like grants and things like that. But her main focus is the sales and partnership. So that's what I would say.
So just to make sure I understand, you're really looking for the people who can be a switchblade and be versatile and adapt to the hardships that come with being a founder.
I would say that as the first 4 or 5 people, yes. As you scale, obviously that changes. We're currently 6 people on the team, and now we've kind of each one has their role, and it's all kind of pretty much determined. Obviously, we're still doing a lot of kind of parallel things, but definitely the first 1-2 hires should be people that can do multiple touch upon multiple things areas.
And as you look now that you cued it perfectly, now that you're at that stage, what are you looking for out of the next, maybe 6 to 10 hires, it sounds like?
So we are looking to build out our software engineering team. We currently have 2 engineers together with the CTO and co-founder Eldar, who's together with me. And we were kind of, our next hire would be a data analyst, right? Because we're gathering a lot of data coming in from the companies. VP product at some stage we're gonna bring on, and yeah, I would say those are the kind of the first other additional hires that we're gonna do.
So these people you're now really looking for the specialists, it sounds like.
Right,
The
exactly.
people who can lead your technical product and execution to the next level.
Exactly. So
Makes
one of the
sense.
things that we're doing now with our product is we launched our new platform, our new version in April, 22nd of April, so Earth Day, and it's now kind of
That's my
expanding
birthday.
that. Yeah. Oh, yeah, there you go. So for your birthday, happy birthday! For
Birthday
that.
present for me.
Birthday
Yeah,
present,
birthday
exactly.
present for me. Yeah.
Exactly. And so we basically are now trying to expand the platform to be able to withstand, large numbers of employees. So the hundreds of thousands of employees to be on the platform requires a lot of technical work, and that's what we're doing now with our team. So yeah.
Amazing. Now we've gone through a lot of different, aspects of your company, but let's talk about, the path to success, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
if we round out what will make Elements successful, what are the main things that you envision for the future? Is it every employer offers green benefits? Like what's the end goal here?
Yeah. So first of all, yes, you gave me one of them away. I think that creating a standard in every company is one of our biggest visions. We're also the second in vision is to be a gigaton company, right? We're trying to reduce on the gigaton scale, or try to avoid at least a gigaton of emissions, and we have a way to reach that. So that's the second part, and the third one I think is to really help companies in their strategy and utilizing the workforce in the right way, giving value back to employees, living a more sustainable lifestyle, right? If we help employees live a more cost efficient, sustainable lifestyle, we're also helping companies. We could potentially reduce health risks. We could potentially reduce, benefits that they have to give. So there's a win-win for everyone in that sense. And that's what I like about this, right? So it's like everybody wins.
You're not just a founder, you're a community builder. And if you look on your LinkedIn, you build a few different communities. So, I think you're the best person to ask about the power of community and climate. But more importantly, I want to take even a step back. What are the kinds of events that you put on, and why did you get into that?
Yeah, it's great. I think first of all, I enjoy. If you don't like it, don't do it. So that's the first kind of reason and why I do what I do. But I like to give. I would say to give value for people, right? If you give value to people and you do good karma, it comes 10 times more. And I started kind of being an ambassador for both the Voyagers community, which is a community started by David Rowan a few years ago around ClimateTech operators, investors, and founders. They do amazing retreats, and then I can participate in the Bay Area. And we host different from dinners to events and pitches to, I'm doing now a sailing trip for chief sustainability officers in companies. So there's a wide range of different. I like to do things out of the things outside the box, and create intimate connections between people in creating these events and community building.
And as someone who builds for a few different people, it sounds like in a few different ways as well. What do you think we need more of in the climate community? Right, like we have a lot of happy hours and networking, and the trope is to say that we have enough disconnected experiences. I'm curious, either in things that you've been to, you've seen, or that you're thinking about, what do we need more of?
Yeah, I think that To be honest, we I think we need less. you know, I'm joking, but I think that one of the things that we feel when we're in climate tech is that it's a bubble, right? And some of the things that we're doing, me and my co-founders, we're bringing on, for example, software engineers that are in the kind of the equivalent of the NSA to try to get them on board climate instead of starting a cyber. I think that the cross industry is much more needed today than being in the same. Because I've gone to so many happy hours and you see the same faces, you see the same people. And I think that one of the things that we need to do is really cross industry, and that's what we should focus on.
I love that. So to anyone who's thinking about organizing an event, don't. I think that I'm kidding.
No, I'm joking,
We'll turn
but
that into a soundbite. We'll get you in trouble.
yeah.
No, man. I respect a lot of the things you do, and I think the way you organize communities is beautiful.
I appreciate it.
Definitely. And depending on how much you're able to interface with the employees, how are they receiving, the benefits that you're offering, and what have you learned through this employer model about interacting with them?
I think that can you ask the question again?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll start again.
Yeah.
3, 2. So as someone who's working with employers, I'm wondering, do you have any ability to interface with the employees and to understand how they feel about your programs and offering? And how do you navigate that communication?
Yeah, so it's a great question. So last year we developed an app that goes straight to employees. Employees download it. One of the things that we learned from that is employees don't really like to download apps, and that's why we've kind of shifted with our new products to using regular communications channels. So like from Slack, Microsoft Teams, email, whatever communication system that companies use, through that we basically communicate to employees directly, and we try to offer them, access to new solutions, educational webinars, all these different things that we can offer employees. And what we understood from that is that there is a craving for kind of things like this. It's a lot of the times not portrayed to the employees as in the best way. So that's why we come in and we really help them kind of uplift that and share about the initiatives.
That's very interesting. So you said it's often not portrayed to the employees in the best way. What do you mean by that?
So I think that sending an email or sending a manual survey to employees, hey, how do you commute to work? Probably the chances and majority of the companies the answer rate is between 5 to 10%, right? So we're trying to solve that. We're trying to solve and make it fun, sexy, and easy for employees to basically connect once their accounts, and then it runs in the background. It's kind of like your bank account or your, any kind of thing that you would connect and integrate with, and that's it. And so it makes it much easier for employees as well.
Okay. So it's really about solving that basic question for them so that they don't have to do this, maybe what is like a meaningless interaction or a less personal interaction that they're normally going through.
Exactly.
Okay. Very interesting. That's
Yeah.
super cool, man.
Thank you.
The time has been flying. I think we've gone through so many important parts of the company, but you already started to talk about this, I think, at 2 separate questions. But what we'd really love to learn is, as someone who's working with some really big companies, who's pioneering a new business model for, employee incentives with the employer, if you were to start again, this is the first day that you've left Orange, you're scared out of your mind, you're about to start this company. What are 3 pieces of advice you would give yourself looking back?
So I think we touched upon a few of them. And just to kind of summarize, I would say the first one is focus on clients as early on, right? Early on, get those clients on, get those discovery calls, and really get that feedback before you start building. I think that's the first one. The second one is waiting on meeting investors. There's a bunch of different kind of theories. Start meeting investors before you have anything with a deck even. And some say don't do that. My personal thought is really wait until you get substantial traction, and it's just going to be kind of a waste of your time, right? If you haven't met investors, you can go and meet them and maybe get some feedback. You meet investors for feedback. You get investments. You meet investment. You get feedback. You know how it works. But a lot of the time that we put at the beginning, meeting investors, could have gone to meeting more clients, and I think that should have been our focus early on. And what I mentioned about really focusing on the MVP and not building out hundreds of features, but really trying to understand what are the needs of the company and how is your solution meeting those needs. I couldn't stress that enough. How much that the emphasis should be on that.
Amazing. I love that, man. And I appreciate you being contrarian about these things. I feel like sometimes it's hard to know what things matter in the speed of execution, because, it would be nice if you could take all the time in the world to
Yeah.
meet every single investor. But in reality, when you're executing on a company, you don't always have that bandwidth. So your take is very refreshing.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree.
Amazing, man. Look, we're coming up on the end of the episode. I think I've learned a lot about your business model, what you're bringing to market, and how people should be thinking about it. So, dude, it's been amazing. I've loved having you on. Before we sign off, where can the audience find you?
LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, whatever is easier. Happy to help out folks that are starting ClimateTech businesses, help with fundraising, decks, all that kind of stuff. I also advise a ClimateTech fund as well. So if anyone is looking to kind of get on an investment and feedback, happy to do that as well.
Amazing. All right, man. We'll catch you again soon.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Have a great day.